Live from Bristol City, it's Dalek44's 500th video! We have a great show for you tonight, with laughs, reviews, and the odd fart joke maybe here and there. And now introducing the man who needs no introduction, but got one anyway, Dalek44!
Thank you. Thank you all. We've got a great looking audience tonight. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now you're all aware that this is my 500th video, right? Well, tonight I have something very special in store for everyone here. You ready for this? A review of Todd Phillips' Joker. Yes, I felt that this movie was the perfect way to celebrate getting 500 videos. Because, let's be honest, it's quite an achievement, right? Well, we got some great laughs for you tonight as I review Todd Phillips' masterpiece, Joker. So stay tuned and we'll be right back. How's that, guys? Yeah. Oh, this is quite an achievement for me. 500 videos, man. Who thought I had gotten this far? And all my fans out there have all made it possible. If it weren't for them, where would I be today? Video. Whew, speaking of which, we better get to work on it.
Knock it!
Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I got one anyway. We're all familiar with Batman the superhero, aren't we? And if we are, we're just as familiar with his arch-enemy, the Joker. The Joker, in all his years, has become one of the most iconic DC Comics villains of all time, as well as one of the most iconic comic book villains of all time, having several actors portrayed the character in their own way, from the wacky and campy Cesar Romero in the 60s Adam West show, the crazy and scary Jack Nicholson from the Tim Burton film, the scary and also really funny Mark Hamill from the animated series, the scary and chaotic Heath Ledger from The Dark Knight, Zach Galifianakis' super obsessed arch-enemy from the Lego Batman movie, and the gangster Joker that Jared Leto played in Suicide Squad.
You suck!
And many other actors that I don't really have time to mention here. But it's needless to say that the Joker has become one of the most iconic things in DC comic books over the years. And the most recent incarnation of the Clown Prince of Crime is Joaquin Phoenix from Todd Phillips' 2019 movie Joker. Joker is a 2019 American psychological thriller film directed and produced by Todd Phillips, who co-wrote the screenplay with Scott Silver. The film stars Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker and provides a possible origin story for the character. When this movie was first announced, people were like,
Oh, hey guys.
"Ah, jeez, it's the Hollywood system." And now that they've seen it, they're like, And this was a movie that a lot of people really didn't want, because the Joker's origin has always been a mystery throughout the DC Comics history. And it's been a mystery in a lot of the adaptations of the film. The best example being Heath Ledger's Joker from The Dark Knight, as we have no idea what drove him to crime. But this one takes an interesting look at the possible reasons for him turning to crime in the first place. Being an original film not based on any of the comic books, is Joker a faithful adaptation to the Clown Prince of Crime? Let's have a look-see. In 1981, party clown and aspiring stand-up comedian Arthur Fleck lives with his mother, Penny, in Gotham City. Arthur suffers from a medical disorder that causes him to laugh at inappropriate times. He depends on social services for medication. After a gang of children attacks Arthur in the alley, his co-worker Randall gives him a gun for protection. During that time, Arthur also meets his neighbour, single mother Sophie Dunham, and invites her to his upcoming stand-up routine at the nightclub. While entertaining at a children's hospital, Arthur's gun falls out of his pocket. Randall lies to management that Arthur bought the gun himself and Arthur is fired. On the subway, still in his clown makeup, Arthur is beaten by 3 drunken Wayne Enterprises businessmen. He shoots 2 in self-defense and executes the 3rd. The murders are condemned by billionaire mayoral candidate Thomas Wayne, who calls those envious of more successful people clowns. Demonstrations against Gotham's rich begin, with protests donning clown masks in Arthur's image. Funding cuts shutter the social service program, leaving Arthur without his medication. Later on, Sophie attends Arthur's stand-up routine, which goes poorly. He laughs uncontrollably and has difficulty delivering his jokes. Popular talk show host Murray Franklin, played by Robert De Niro, mocks Arthur by showing clips of his comedy routine on the show. Arthur intercepts a letter written by Penny to Thomas, alleging that he is Thomas's illegitimate son. He berates his mother for hiding the truth. Arthur goes to Wayne Manor, where he meets Thomas's young son, Bruce Wayne, but flees after a scuffle with the family butler, Alfred Pennyworth. Arthur's journey to find out if Thomas Wayne really is his father or not all leads to some unfortunate reveals about his past, which causes him to suffer from his mental illness and finally snap, becoming the Crown Prince of Crime, the Joker. And murder, chaos, and anarchy ensues. So what's my thoughts on this origin story about the Joker that came from the mind of Tom Phillips? It's the best film from 2019 in my opinion. This movie took everyone by surprise when it was released in cinemas, with 2 sides of the argument for this movie. One side of it saying that this movie could influence violence in the world, while others see it as showing the cause of violence. So while a lot of people were really worried about people who have seen this movie going out causing a lot of violence in the world, all I've seen people do because of this movie is imitate the famous stair dance scene in the movie, either in the exact same location where it was filmed, or at a random bunch of steps where they live. So needless to say, this movie's left quite an impact on comic book fans and movie fans in general. The Joker's origin has always been a mystery to everyone who's ever read the Batman comic books. It's even been a mystery to the Joker himself. But this movie takes an interesting turn to see what a possible motivation could have been for his turn to crime. The main character of the movie, Arthur Fleck, played by Joaquin Phoenix, is a mentally ill, improvised stand-up comedian discarded by society, whose history of abuse causes him to become a nihilistic criminal. Joaquin Phoenix's take on the Joker is so superb and very unique as well, because it's the first Joker that you really feel sorry for. And this is the most sympathetic version of the Clown Prince of Crime I've ever seen. Whereas most versions of the character is really unsympathetic and you just love to hate him. But this guy, you really feel sorry for him throughout the movie. Having seen this guy get beat up and disregarded by society so many times throughout the movie just makes us be on his side, even though you know he's doing terrible things. Like the scene where he shoots the 3 Wayne Enterprises employees. If they hadn't included the first 30 minutes of how bad his life is going, we wouldn't have been able to sympathise with him as much. But seeing how bad he had it makes us side with him. So this movie achieved the impossible for me, making the Joker a sympathetic character that we sympathise and feel sorry for.
You don't listen to you. I don't think you ever really can. You just ask the same questions every week. How's your job? Are you having any negative thoughts? All I have are negative thoughts. but you don't listen anyway.
There's Murray Franklin, played by Robert De Niro, a talk show host who plays role in Arthur's downfall. He runs the talk show Live with Murray Franklin, which was one of Arthur's only pleasures in life. De Niro himself has described his role as paying homage to his character from the 1983 film The King of Comedy, directed by Martin Scorsese. And you could just tell that Robert De Niro is having a ton of fun playing this comedian. I especially love the moments between him and Joaquin Phoenix throughout the film. It's like these two were just made to be on screen together, and I really hope that they cast these two in more films together. It would be a great dynamic to see them play two different characters in other films together. When I first heard that Robert De Niro was going to be in the movie, I immediately assumed he was going to be like a crime boss or something, because that's what he's usually known for when he's in movies. Sophie Drummond, played by Zazie Beetz, is a single mother and Arthur's love interest. Throughout the film we get this feeling that they have a romantic relationship with each other, and it really shows throughout the film as Arthur invites her to a first stand-up comedian act, snogs her after he murders the three Wayne Enterprises employees. She goes to watch his comedy act and he walks her home. And she even comforts him while they're in the hospital when Penny Fleck has a heart attack. But by the end of the film we learn that their whole love relationship was just in Arthur's head. And the movie plays really well at switching between what's really going on in reality and what's going on in Arthur's mind. So it makes it hard to tell which is which. Even Arthur found it hard to tell which was which, because everything that was going on in his head just seemed very real to him. And just to see that his relationship with Sophie was all in his mind is just heartbreaking. And it adds to his downfall to become Joker. And because a lot of Sophie's scenes was all in Arthur's fantasy, we don't know if she's actually the way she was in the fantasies or if she was a different way in reality. It just leaves you to fill in the blanks yourself.
I used to think that my life was a tragedy, but now I realize it's a fucking comedy.
Arthur's mentally and physically ill mother, Penny Fleck, played by Frances Conroy, was a former worker for Thomas Wayne, and she claimed that Arthur was Thomas's son. Penny was another one of those parts in Arthur's life which keeps him from going insane. But all that changes when Arthur finds out that she lied to him for all these years, making him believe that they really were mother and son. But you can't really blame Penny for that because of her mental illness. She's convinced herself that that's the way it is. And we sympathise with that because we all know someone in our lives who's had the same sort of mental illness. Someone who's told themselves a certain thing and then becomes convinced that it's real. So it really makes us sympathise with both Arthur and Penny at the end of the film. And there's Thomas Wayne, played by Brett Cullen, a billionaire playboy running for mayor of Gotham. Unlike in the comics, Thomas plays a role in the Joker's origins and is less sympathetic than traditional incarnations. The way Thomas Wayne is performed in this movie makes him look like a kind of Donald Trump sort of person. Someone who's running for a big political placement and gets a lot of people hating him because of the things he says. Some people could describe him as a sort of Donald Trump type character. A politician who would say nasty things about people and then try to apologise, but the apology doesn't sound very apologetic. It's just very rare to see this kind of version of Thomas Wayne. And even though Arthur sort of sparks this rebellion against the wealthy in Gotham, Thomas Wayne made it worse with his comments on TV. So in a way, Thomas Wayne is as much to blame for the riots as Arthur was. Arthur may have started it, but Thomas Wayne made it worse.
I don't need you to tell me lies. I know it seems strange. I don't mean to make you uncomfortable. I don't know why everyone is so rude. I don't know why you are. I don't want anything from you. Maybe a little bit of warmth. Maybe a hug, Dad. How about just a little bit of fucking decency? What is it with you people?
Other characters include Bruce Wayne, Thomas's son, who becomes the Joker's archenemy Batman as an adult. And that scene where Arthur meets Bruce for the first time is just an amazing scene. I just watch it saying, in a few years' time these two are going to become arch enemies. And I think it's quite funny that even when Bruce was a kid, Joker still couldn't make him smile and laugh. And the scene also brings stranger danger to a new creepy level. But that's just what makes it fun to watch. There's Randall and Gary, Arthur's clown co-workers. Randall being the type of guy who has this "you're my boy, we gotta stick up for each other" type of person, but underneath he's an asshole who gets Arthur fired. So it makes it easy for us to side with Arthur when he kills Randall near the end of the film. And Gary's one of the few sympathetic people within Gotham City, being the only one that was ever nice to Arthur in his life, showing a lot of concern for Arthur's mental illness and well-being. So it makes a lot of sense at the end when Arthur doesn't kill Gary and lets him walk out. Because like Arthur said, he was the only one that was ever nice to him. And other characters include 2 detectives in Gotham City Police Department who were investigating the subway murders, Gene, a producer of Murray Franklin's show, Arthur's social worker throughout the beginning of the film, and the 3 Wayne Enterprises employees who got shot. There's just so many aspects of this movie that I love a lot and just makes me keep coming back to it. Like the soundtrack, for instance. It's just really awesome to listen to and really sets the tone for the movie. Most films would have light-hearted music along with dark music, but this one has dark, gritty music all out through, aside from the songs that were used throughout the movie. Along with the composer's music, we got a few light-hearted songs that wouldn't fit in a movie like this, but they strangely do. Featuring songs such as That's Life, Send in the Clowns, White Room, and Rock and Roll Part 2, which was used for the iconic stair dance scene. And I don't know if it's just me, but when they played Send in the Clowns during the end credits, it felt kinda sad after watching the whole movie. It was just that kind of effect, I guess. Every time I watch this movie, I don't really see anything that's obvious CGI or not so obvious CGI. I just see that most of the stuff was probably done all practical, like how a movie from the 80s would have been done. And I use the word 80s here because the movie really feels like you've gone back in time to the 1980s. It was set during the 1980s, and it feels like a 1980s film. Right down to the 80s style Warner Brothers logo rather than the current logo. And while watching this movie, I just get the feeling that there was no studio control, unlike most films that are released nowadays. I just get this feeling that Todd Phillips was given complete freedom and control to do whatever he wanted in this movie, and it really shows throughout the whole film. And it's very rare that we get a movie that wasn't dominated by studios taking control. It's just a great change of pace. And there's just so many good moments in this movie that's so worth talking about. Like how the movie makes you question what's really going on and what's going on in Arthur's mind. Of course, it was obvious that Arthur being on the Murray Franklin show in the opening of the film was all in Arthur's imagination. He dreamed it up while he was watching the Murray Franklin show live with his mother. And then it became obvious near the end of the film that his relationship with Sophie was all in his head as well. So stuff like that just makes you question what really did happen and what happened in Arthur's mind, playing to the fact that Arthur may be an unreliable narrator. It's just one of those films that really makes you think about these possibilities. And a lot of the film really does play on real life, and has very little influences from the comic books. Obviously there's some nods to the Killing Joke and The Dark Knight Returns, mostly with Arthur's life being nothing but bad days, and his appearance on the Murray Franklin show referencing his appearance on a talk show in The Dark Knight Rises. And even though the line "all it takes is one bad day" is not mentioned once in the movie, Arthur's life is filled with nothing but bad days. And he even gets to say that he had a bad day in one scene. So it was obvious that the Killing Joke played a huge part in the making of this movie, especially with the whole story of Arthur being a failed comedian, which was taken directly from the Killing Joke. The movie works as a great character study for the Joker, and a great origin story from the mind of Todd Phillips. And the whole film is just written so superbly, and Joaquin Phoenix's performance is so superb as well. This mostly plays on real life violence, like with people shooting others and riots in the streets. It's just one of those things that plays on real life. And while some people might claim that this movie could cause violence in the streets, the movie actually shows what causes violence. People being nasty to one another and nobody thinking about what it's like to be someone but themselves. Arthur even mentions it when he's on the Murray Franklin show.
Everybody just yells and screams at each other. Nobody's civil anymore. Nobody thinks what it's like to be the other guy. They think that we'll just sit there and take it like good little boys, that we won't werewolf and go wild.
And that is very true, because there are some people out there that don't think what it's like to be someone else, and are just really nasty in general. But while that's true, it's also true that not everyone in the world is awful. It's only certain people that are awful to others. Like how they don't think about other people's feelings from time to time, which makes it very easy for us to sympathise with Arthur when he's doing these horrible things. You sympathise with him for doing such horrible things because the system fucked him.
What do you get when you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that abandons him and treats him like trash? I'll tell you what you get. Get what you fucking deserve.
And that end scene where the Joker is praised by all the rioters and creates a smile with his own blood is just pure Joker to me. The moment Arthur made a smile on his face with his own blood immediately tells you that there's nothing left of Arthur Fleck anymore. Only the Joker. And Joaquin's performance, the great camera work, and the great music just adds to the tension and sadness of this moment. It's so dark, it's so sad, it's so tragic, it's so crazy, and it's so Joker. It's also really interesting how they tie in the Joker's origin story to Batman's origin story. And it's kind of a reference to the 1989 Batman movie by Tim Burton where Joker was the one that killed Batman's parents. But here Joker influenced the death of his parents, connecting both their origin stories together. This ending also shows us that if Arthur lived in any other city in the world, perhaps his sanity could have been saved. But Gotham City allows him to become a monster. And whereas other incarnations of the Joker would have him fall in a vat of acid which drives him crazy, here the entire city of Gotham is the vat of acid. It's the thing that drives Joker to be what he is in this movie. And that bathroom dance scene improvised by Joaquin Phoenix is just an awesome moment. Right down to the music and the atmosphere and Phoenix's dancing. It just shows him slowly but surely transforming into the Joker. And if Joaquin hadn't improvised this whole dance scene, I don't think this scene as well as the movie would have had as much a big impact as it does. And Arthur's laugh in this movie is inspired by people who have a mental condition that causes them to laugh uncontrollably at inappropriate moments. And I've heard that Phoenix actually studied up on these laughs for people who have that actual condition, and he just has such a great range of laughs. Laughs that sound genuinely creepy, laughs that are proper laughs, laughs that are uncontrollable and maniacal, and even laughs that sounds like he's actually crying. That is just a superb performance on Phoenix's behalf. When Joker was released, it received numerous awards. At the 92nd Academy Awards, the film earned a lead in 11 nominations, including Best Picture and Best Director, winning Best Actor for Phoenix, and Best Original Score for the composer. They also won at the Golden Globe and BAFTA award ceremonies. And the film was so successful it claimed over $1 billion worldwide on its $55 to $70 million budget. It's just amazing that a movie like this can earn up to $1 billion. It just shows what power a movie like this can have over the viewing audience. This movie was intended to be a standalone film with no sequels, although Warner Bros. Intended it to launch a DC Black universe. But it got so popular that Warner Bros. Actually offered them to do a sequel for it, which Phillips and Phoenix had a lot of interest in. And if they do bring out a sequel, I'm wondering if it's going to involve Joker meeting Batman. It would just be a great way to tie in the Joker to the Dark Knight. Perhaps not the new Batman that we're going to get in cinemas soon, but it would really be awesome to see Phoenix's Clown Prince of Crime face off against the Dark Knight in the future. Joker is definitely a film that I would recommend for any comic book fans and superhero movie fans and Batman fans. Even people who may not be comic book fans themselves would still get a kick out of this movie, because it takes place in a universe that's more real life rather than superhero world. Joker is one of those dark comic book movies that strays from the comics but still stays true to the character of the Joker. It has amazing acting, superb music, great effects, great writing, and it's just an all-around great comic book movie in my opinion. And it's a great tribute to the work of Martin Scorsese, who directed films like Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy. And it's funny because he was initially attached to the project as producer, but had to drop out. But his fingerprints are definitely seen all over this movie as inspiration from his works. While some people may consider this as a dark movie that could influence violence in the world, if it raised over $1 billion in the box office and continues to bring in awards, then it's obviously done something right. and if you haven't seen this comic book marvel yet, then I would definitely recommend checking it out. You may come out of this movie having a better view on the world and how awful some people could be and how there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, or you may come out of it as crazy as the Clown Prince of Crime himself. But however you come out at the end, Joker is a great comic book movie that will be remembered for all time by comic book fans and moviegoers in general. It's definitely worth a watch.
For my whole life, I didn't know if I even really existed. But I do. People are starting to notice.
Well folks, I hope you've enjoyed my 500th video on my YouTube channel and look forward to more videos in the near future. I'm Dalek44 and I'll see you next time folks. After talking about Joker, I feel like I want to put it on again. Yeah, I'll go do that. I'll get some snacks and a drink to go with it first though.